Hi friends, I'm Corolla on Instagram and socials. I'm from Corolla. Today I'm going to unbox a Tom Studio Artist Series collection. So it contains paintbrushes, watercolor paints, and accessories, and it's been thoughtfully curated into a collection or series of different products that you can choose from. I am an ambassador for Tom Studio, and they did kindly send me a box of different products to test and to try, and I thought I'd share it with you and my thoughts on what I think about them and also how I personally would use them in my creative practice. So if we're meeting for the first time, I'm Corolla. I'm based out of Vancouver, Canada, and I love stationery, I love painting, I love using watercolor paints and fountain pen inks, and my style is more abstract, creative, floral, and I'm really excited to dig into this box of different products. But first, what we're gonna do is, because Tom Studio, they always include in their orders a tea bag, we're going to make tea. So this is called Mint to Be. I already opened it. It smells so good. I know you can't smell it, but it's really fragrant. It smells very yummy. So we're going to add that to some hot water that I have here in my mug, and already it's filling up my room with this really lovely scent. So we're gonna let that steep for a little bit. I'm just gonna let it steep for a little bit, and while that happens, we're going to look through this box of really fun things from this artist series. So the artist series collection or range is based on creative possibilities. So using these products in a creative way, but also because Tom Studio is built around, usefulness, like being able to use your tools in different ways to make your practice easier and more enjoyable. There's also there's also the idea of sustainability, or being able to reuse the tools in different ways to make it last longer. But also, once you get used to certain tools being part of your practice, it's hard to let them go. And so being able to reuse things and refill things as well, I think is really special and useful to have. So first thing, we have watercolor and gouache brushes. They're made from disposable plastic pens. I'll take a look at that in more detail as well. And then we have handmade watercolor paints. And this set is the Naturescape collection. Then we also have a pen rest that's also made from disposable plastic pens. So really reusing things and giving them second life is an awesome part of this collection. And then an artist palette also made from disposable plastic pens. And we'll take a closer look at these as well. So these products are from the Tom Studio Artist Series or collection of different products that you can get depending on your needs and how useful they are to you. I'm just going to show you quickly on the Tom Studio site because they're now available. So let's take a quick look at what that looks like on the Tom Studio site. Okay, so here we have the Artist Series, but you'll have a set of paintbrushes that you can choose from. Also the write-off paint set, which is with the recycled plastic handles, which is what I have. Replacement brush heads, which we'll talk about when we look at the paintbrushes. And then you have the watercolor collection, and you can select different palettes. So there's a signature, there's a seascape, there's the landscape, and the naturescape. So the naturescape water collection, which is what I have. And then also the write-off artist palette, which I will also show you, and the pen and brush rest, which I'll show you. And then you can also find these watercolor half pans, which are really great depending on what colors you're looking for and what might be more useful for you. And you can add those into the watercolor travel tin, or if you have a collection that comes with one of the corresponding tins, you can put it in there as well. There's different things that you can choose from here. And remember to keep in mind that this is supposed to last for a very long time as part of your painting or creative practice. And so it's really nice to see the different options that are available to you. All right, so now we'll take a closer look at the different products that we have. So I'll start with the pen rest. This is made from disposable plastic pens. So this pen rest is Funfetti, and it's great because even though it's made with recycled plastics, it really is vibrant and colorful. And so you're getting all these different shades that work so well together. And so we'll use this to rest our paintbrushes on. It could also work for pens, pencils, anything on your desk. And it's very, very light, but it does help to keep your paintbrushes and other tools from rolling off your desk. So it's really useful. I'm going to take a look at the artist palette. So this is the artist palette. The idea is the color wheel, and so it sort of plays off that design. I think it just looks really cool. I also like that there's these different sizes for when you're mixing colors, or when you want to sort of separate out colors that you're working with. And so that's really helpful. And it feels very light, but also very sturdy. So that's the artist palette. So these are the watercolor and gouache brushes. And the theme is Funfetti. So in the brush set, you get 5 brushes, and they are of different, they are with different tips. So you get a round 2 brush for fine details. Then you get the round 4, which is for controlled details. So it's a little bit wider and broader than your 2. And then you get 6, around 6. So everyday sort of balanced, nice all around kind of round brush. Then you get a round 8, which is great for loose strokes, general sort of washes, just being able to get more paint on the paper. And then this one is a 1/2 inch flat brush. And it's great for washes, or if you need something with crisp edges, this is great for that. So the great thing about these brushes is that the handles are recycled plastic pens, basically, and this is the Write-Off series. I actually have a Tom Studio Wren with the cap that's part of this Write-Off series or range. And it's recycled plastics, but because of, the different colors that they use, it's just a really funfetti theme of colors. And the great thing about these brushes is that they are, you can remove the heads. So if for whatever reason, something happens to your brush, or you use it quite a lot and it just kind of loses, the edge, or it loses, or you just want to replace it, you can easily do that. So these brush heads, they actually sit pretty firmly on the handles. And so, in order to be able to take it off, you kind of firmly have to grasp it and then pull it off. And, you can replace it with a new one. And so, replace your brushes, keep the handles, right? And especially when the handles are super, super fun. And just a great addition to any collection, I think. The other thing I should mention is they feel pretty light, but also kind of weighty. So I do, I sort of feel that heaviness near the tip because you have this metallic head section. But it feels very comfortable to hold on to, and so we'll try them out. We'll do a little bit of painting together, and I'll test them out. But the way it sort of feels is, I think it's just really well balanced, and I like that it's long handles, just because, you know, feels like there's balance between, you know, the tip and the end of that. And depending on what you're painting and how you're holding your brush, I tend to sometimes alternate between, you know, if it's fine detail, I will hold it closer to the tip a little bit. But then other times when I'm doing sort of abstract work and I just want to put color on the page, I tend to hold it a little bit further up, somewhere in the middle. And so that varying weight really affects that. So having a long handle, but also being able to feel the balance of the weight is kind of a useful thing for me. And then we have the handmade watercolor set, the Naturescape collection. And I'm going to open that up. So it comes with this very handy travel tin. So you can take it with you on the go. And you can also mix colors directly in here if you want to, if you don't want to carry around a palette. But it comes with these 6 colors, which make up this Naturescape color palette. The cool thing is that they're artist grade watercolors. They're hand poured in the Somerset studio by the Tom Studio team. There are 6 pigment-rich half pans with the highest light fastness rating. So they are artist grade, and they will make your painting or your art piece look vibrant and last. The pans, which I'll show you a closer look at, the recycled plastic pans are made from what are called ghost nets, which I didn't know that's what the term refer to, but they are fishing nets that are recovered from the Cornish coast. So just, you know, fishing nets that are drifting out in the sea or in water, and that are collected and then made into plastic pellets, and then they pour into these pan molds and basically make these paint pans. So giving them second life and reusing them in a sustainable way. So this collection, the Naturescape collection, is focused on bright botanical and earthy hues, and they're inspired by plants, materials, open landscapes. So they're great for if you like to paint botanicals or flowers or gardenscape kind of things. And for me personally, I love to paint abstract floral art, and so this is right up my alley, in my wheelhouse. So I'm excited and itching to unravel these paint pans and test them out. So let's do that together. Let's try these paints out. I have my watercolor sketchbook that I like to paint with watercolor paints and fountain pen inks in. And as you can see, my style is very much abstract floral art. I just like to kind of have fun with paints and inks and let them stand out on paper and sort of become what they will, go with the flow. And what I do is I typically add paint on paper, and then I use them as outlines to add a little bit more detail and do some line drawing work on top, and make it look a little bit more flowery or more like a flower bouquet. And so that's what we're going to do with these paints. I'm so excited to try them out. So let's try all the different brushes as well. So I have 3 of them sitting on this really colorful and beautiful pen rest, and we're going to mix some of the colors together and just kind of see what we get and create a little bit of art. So what I usually tend to do is I draw some floral outlines, then I draw some leaves around them, and for that I'm going to use these wider brushes for the leaves, surrounding the flowers, and we're going to use these more detailed round brushes to actually draw the outlines of the flowers. So what I'm going to start with is my round 2 brush. And I'm just going to add a little bit of water to the paints to activate them a little bit. And what you can do is, add a little bit of color onto your palette if you want to mix them, or you just want to work a little bit with your colors. And so what I'll do is I'll actually swatch the colors that I'm using, and so it's just a reminder for me of what colors are in this palette. And then I'll add a little bit to my page. And this is a detailed brush, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the yellow as sort of an indication of where I want the center of the flower. And I'll probably have a few. So I'll just add a little bit of yellow randomly on my paper. And I might come back to work with this. So I'm going to leave this on my pen rest for now and maybe come back to it. So now I'm going to go with my round 4 brush, and I'm going to add a little bit more color. So I'm going to go with this pink. So let's put this there. Add a little bit of pink. I'm just adding sort of random pink, also adding a little bit of water to desaturate my color a little bit. And then I'll add a little here. Again, adding a little bit of water softens it a little bit as well. So I'm good with that. So this is my round 6. And here I'll play with the I'll play with the blue a little bit. So let's add some water to that. Okay. So a little bit of blue here. Some of the pink has dried, but that's okay. If you add a little bit of water, it reactivates the paint, so you can do a little bit more mixing and blending if you want to. And then I'll add some blue here as well on the top. There's also the red, so I think what I'll do is take a little bit of the red as well, add it here. So that is super vibrant. That's really nice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit to the pink. So there's a little bit of pink, a little bit of red. And then I'll add a little bit of water to desaturate it slightly. And I can add some in the back as well, in the background. So that's the really nice red. And then we're going to do a little bit of purple. So I think for the purple, I might actually use the number 8 or number 6. What is 6? So I'm going to pick some purple up with the 6 round brush. Add it here. Watch that. And then I'll add a little bit of purple to the blue. And then a little bit in the background as well. You can see it's a little muted in the back. And then I'm going to add a little bit of purple right in the center as well. So it bleeds a little bit into the pink maybe. Not thinking too much about it. So I kind of just go with the flow and add color as I want as I keep going, as I go. And I try to distribute it a little evenly, but not thinking too much about it as well. So if I see, you know, here they're very light colors, they're very muted. So I'll add a little bit of a darker shade maybe to make it stand out. And that's a great thing about these round brushes is that the finer the round brush is, you know, the more control you have over your details, but also the way you sort of hold your brushes as well will help you kind of add those details. So that's those brushes, and now we can play around with our larger 2 paint brushes. So we have the 8, the round 8, and then we have the half inch flat brush. So this is great for edges. This is great for just adding color. And I'm going to use both of these to add some leaves and some background fillers into this bouquet. And so let's add some green onto our palette. We are going to mix a little bit as well. So here's our deep green. So let's watch that. That's really pretty. It's a really nice evergreen. So using the shape of the brush, I can sort of form those leaves. And then I can also sort of mix in a little bit of yellow and lighten that up a little bit so it's not just one shade of green. And then I can also add some leaves behind it that are a little lighter on both sides. And then of course we can mix our own green with adding some blue and yellow. So if I pick up a little bit of blue, added to this yellow as well. You have this lime green. Can add that in as well. Now we're going to try this flat brush, and I'm just going to show you a little bit of I think I'm just going to use it for adding a little bit of leaves in the background. So it's really great for if you want to do some line work and edging. It's useful for that. Kind of depends on how you want to use it. So I kind of like using it for creating different shapes of leaves, especially as, you know, they sort of fawn or fan out in the background and on the sides of bouquets sometimes. So that's kind of fun to do as well. So just kind of depends on how you want to use it and what kind of shapes you want to create with them. So I like all the paintbrushes. I tend to use the round paintbrushes more just because I like to use the shape of the paintbrush to give me, you know, rounded outlines. And so that's useful for me when it comes to doing floral painting. I also like that this palette has different spaces that separates the colors, but also enough space that if you wanted to mix colors, there's enough space there to do it. So well thought out, I think. The idea of the color wheel is actually quite funny, so I like that as well. The colors that they chose for this collection specifically really work for me. Like, I really enjoy these colors, so great to, you know, mix them and create different shades if you wanted to as well. Now that my paint has dried, I like to add a little bit of detail on top, some line drawing to make it look a little bit more like a floral bouquet. So in order to do that, I'm using a Tom Studio Lumos Pro Duo tip. And on the one side, I have a fine tip, so fine liner, 0.5. So it'll give me those nice lines that I'm looking for, that are not too thin but also not too broad. So and I'm just using the Tom Studio black ink that comes with the Lumos. And what I want to do is I just want to add a little bit of line drawing because it makes it more fun, but it also gives a little bit more detail. And so when I look at this, it'll look a little bit more like a floral bouquet. And I don't want to cover up too much of the color, obviously, because that's what makes this a special sort of painted piece. But what I do is I use the color as an outline, and I just loosely follow it along with these sort of quick lines. So because I have this yellow here as sort of the center of the flower, this is going to be a flower. So what I do is I just add a little bit of line work on top. And I don't push too hard, I just keep it very gentle. Again, like I said, I don't want to color on top. I don't want to put black on top of color that's here. So just using this to show me where the flowers might be. And that's where the white space really comes into play as well. Being really helpful in giving me some space to add some of those details in. Drawing on top of flowers, something to keep in mind is that there's a little bit of texture there, and drawing on top of watercolor paper as well will give you a little bit of texture to work with. And so that's why I don't like to put too many lines down, just working with what I have here. So knowing that these are leaves, and leaves come in different shapes, and they do look imperfect, some may be torn as well, or they kind of have these jagged edges depending on what kind of leaf it is. So I kind of like to play around with that as well. And for the palette, I'll just outline them in sort of this box. And then that's kind of it. Oops. I hope this demonstration was helpful and fun. Just taking a closer look at Tom's Studio Artist Series, the Funfetti themed paintbrushes, and the pen rest, as well as the artist palette and the Naturescape themed paint palette. And I hope it sort of gave you an idea of how you can potentially use these types of tools in your creative practice as well. I'm Corolla on socials. I can be found at From Corolla. Thank you so much for joining me and for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.